Hello, hello. Welcome to Inspiring Women with ADHD. I'm Renee Allen, the host of this podcast, and I'm so excited you're here today. This will probably be a little quicker podcast. We'll see, because usually I record them in the afternoon or evening. And this morning I woke up and thought, I want to make one now. I want to make one now. But I need to go teach a yoga class in just a bit. So I thought maybe that's not the smartest idea to do it in the morning when I know I need to leave. But the desire was still inside me. And I did the things I should do. Well, not completely. I was going to do the dishes, but I didn't do that. I pretty much did the essential things I needed to do, put my makeup on, got my clothes on. I haven't filled my water bottle yet. I have a few things that I do before I leave, but I did enough that I thought I could run upstairs and make a podcast episode for early this week, because I feel like the last one I left was more, oh, the problems with ADHD, which sometimes it's nice to commiserate together, right? But I gave a few ideas near the end of what could help us out of situations like that, being completely scattered and having a hard time to keep track of things, because it does show up in different areas, right? We have our time that we need to be productive, like in our own space, our home, our office, our place of work, wherever you are during the day that you could get things done, or maybe even running errands or things like that. But those extra scattered moments out in public when you don't have your own surroundings can be embarrassing. They can be a sign or an indication of what's going on inside, right? And so that can be helpful to identify. But I really looked at that afterwards and thought, okay, why are you having such a hard time getting back into the swing of things? And I realized that I had a lot of things in the way of where I wanted to go. So if you picture a little pathway in your house from, let's just say, from your bedroom to your bathroom, and you have however long of a distance that little trail is, if it were a trail out in a mountain hike or something, there's a little pathway that you go on from your bedroom to your bathroom. If there's nothing on the floor in that space, you can walk and you can get from one place to the other, and maybe you bump into a wall or something, a corner, because we do those kinds of things sometimes. But you can walk there pretty effortlessly. And I think of the bedroom to the bathroom because I am one who wakes up during the night most of the time. It's a surprise if I don't, in the middle of the night, to go to the bathroom. And I have learned that if there's something on the floor in that pathway, I will trip. I'll make noise that could wake up my husband. I could get hurt, or I'll just kick something with my toe or whatever. I know that I need to have that pathway clear. And why would it be filled with something? Well, there could be reasons. Maybe when I was sleeping on the other side of the bed. In our last house, I was further from the bathroom. Sometimes my husband would take his shoes off and have them in front of the bed, which made sense to him, but it wasn't helpful to me, because if I walked by there in the middle of the night, I would kick his shoe. It would disrupt things. It could cause me to get hurt, whatever, whatever. So I learned before I went to bed to look for those things. Sometimes he takes a pillow and throws it. I don't know if he throws it, but he tosses it, because I have a lot more pillows on the bed. I actually use a lot more pillows than he does. He uses two, I use at least five. But if there's a pillow that he thinks, oh, Renee's not using this, he might just toss it, and then it could be on the floor, and then I could walk into it. Even where I am now that I'm closer to the bathroom, that could happen if, I don't know, he just sends it the wrong way. And so I've learned to look for that the night before, to make sure my pathway's clear when I get up, when I'm not thinking about it. But during the day, if I'm cleaning out my closet or something, so now in my house, the closet is in between my bedroom and my bathroom. If I'm cleaning out my closet, which I'm actually in the middle of right now, I might have a few bags of things that I'm giving to the thrift store, uh, sending over to my daughter-in-law to have her look through before I give them to the thrift store, or a couple little plastic boxes that I need to put things in this and decide how to organize it. So I have all those containers out. I'll call it a trash bag, a container too. But I have all those out so that when I'm cleaning, I can function. But rarely do I ever have an overhaul on a closet or some kind of cleaning project like that, organizational project, and I get done in one day. It usually takes me longer. So I have to either streamline that so it doesn't interfere with my path, or I need to move it out of the way. And if it's daytime and I'm not really worried about tripping, although I could trip on something during the day, I'm not always paying attention to where my feet are. But even just the distraction of seeing it in between one room or another might make me go off of what I was doing. Priority wise, decision wise, it might make me think, oh, you know what? Actually, I should probably work on this closet right now instead of working on my computer or being in the kitchen and cooking something. Any of those things that were once on my mind, maybe I'm boiling eggs and I forget about it because I walk through that pathway and I see the clutter on the ground or whatever it is, whatever has fallen into that space or I put in that space that could get in the way. So I realized that when I came home from my trip, everywhere I looked was in my pathway. Uh, Whether it was something that I put there because I just gotten home, so I put more things out than might normally be out, or it could be things that just changed in my home because I was gone alone. Everyone else was still there, and they might have put something in a place that I wouldn't. And I try not to be this control person of why isn't everything the way that I do it? Because I'm not the only one who lives here, although that is a tendency. But it did make me realize, I think, oh yeah, they haven't done this since I was gone, or they put this here, and maybe I'll organize it this way, or whatever it is. Who knows? But all those things were adding to the clutter in my brain, were adding to the confusion, and made it harder to make decisions because anytime you overtax your brain, there are skills and functions of your brain that are harder to do or sometimes seemingly impossible to do when your brain doesn't have that clear path. It doesn't have that path that's not adding to what's going on in your brain. You're giving it more to process. You're giving it stress in your body. And when you get stress in your body, not only does your body not function as well, but your brain doesn't function as well. So it's like, no wonder things get harder at times than they do other times. And you can probably look in your life and see times where you're just streamlining, you're doing well, and other times it could be within the same month, it could be within the same year, or you might look back and think, when I was in college, I did really well with this. And maybe you did because you were single. You had a quiet dorm room. You didn't have children who came and asked you questions or needed you to stop and help make food or whatever it is. So you may have had a brain that could function better, maybe because you were younger, maybe you hadn't reached menopause, maybe, there are a lot of factors, but it's helpful to see that varying factors can impact that. And sometimes you have to back out of it and just say, okay, this isn't improving. This isn't going well. What can I do to help make it better? A few ideas I've been pondering are with this pathway. One is clearing the pathway, and another is paving the pathway. So, clearing the pathway, and this may be physical. It may be when I walk from my kitchen to my laundry room, do I see 20 things that need to be done? This is my house. Yours may be different, but I do. I see the trash bag I put there that I want to take out. I see some shoes I want to get rid of. I see, or for me, clutter gets in the way of my brain. I notice it. I notice it. I notice it. So I do things like I deal with it, things that can be dealt with quickly. I deal with it, or I throw a towel over it or a blanket over it, or I spend a few minutes taking it to where it needs to go. That I guess is dealing with it too. Sometimes it's just moving it to an attic, moving it actually into the laundry room. So dealing with the things that you can deal with quickly can be helpful unless it's really distracting you from something else that you need to do. And determining that in your mind. Should I deal with it now or should I just walk away? Walk away. Don't do this right now. Don't do this right now. Don't do this right now. Sometimes we have to tell ourselves, walk away from that, whether it's physically or mentally, and just let go of it. Try to empty out that to do list in your brain. That doesn't matter as much. I want to just focus on this. I just want to do this. And that can be done later. Give yourself permission for it to be there, sit there, and even put on blinders when you walk by, cover it up. Although covering it up, you might forget about it another day. But all those things, those are things in our own brains that stop us from being productive. I realized that today as I was thinking of coming up here to make this podcast. And I thought, but then you're not posting it as early in the morning, or maybe then you're not, all those things. If somebody else was telling you something that you didn't agree with, you'd think, don't tell me that. I'm going to do it this way. When we doubt ourselves or we come up with our own self-sabotaging thoughts, we aren't as quick to tell ourselves, don't tell me that. So I'm trying to recognize that too. Mindfulness is important. Just noticing that your thoughts may be helpful and they may not. That's a skill that I've probably learned by doing yoga, just by stopping and thinking about or recognizing my thinking, I guess is more what it is. Not thinking about it, but recognizing that my thinking happens and sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. And I can just send it away. But back to clearing the pathway, identifying a pathway that you need between where you are and what you want to do. Whether you're sitting in one spot to do it and you just need to get on your computer and do something. And that pathway would be knowing where you're starting and knowing where you want to be. So let's say you go on your computer and you want to open up a program and work on something in that program. But maybe that creates a little anxiety in your body of trying to sit still, trying to focus on something. And to relieve that, you just think, oh, I'll just check this email because I'll get that out of my mind. And then you get an email from some online store that you just ordered from a month ago, and they tell you about a sale, and you click on that just to see, and it goes on and on and on. An hour later, you haven't gone to where you wanted to go, and you may not even remember why you got on the computer. It happens to me often, and you need to just stay with what you plan to do and try to do that first and not let the other get in the way, not let the other clutter your pathway because that other website, that email, whatever it is, it's like it's dropped into your path and you're here and you feel happy to be there. You think, I might stay here a long time because it's easier. It's easier on our brains to do things that we tend to do and stay with instead of what we really want to get done. So just think about that for a minute. Has that happened to you? Does that happen to you when you get on your computer, when you get on your phone and you think, oh yeah, I need to text this person back? You open your phone to do that, and maybe you see do you call it a screen, a window, if whatever it's called on your phone, you see that open and then you think, oh, really? And you follow that, and then you follow that. And later that day, later that night, you get in bed, your mind finally starts to shut down a bit, which causes you to realize things that are in the back of your mind, like, I never texted that person. Oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Why did that happen? So, recognizing that you do have a pathway from point A to point B, whether it's physical, whether it's just in the process of what you want to accomplish. So, you're going to clear that pathway. You may even put blinders on. Do people know what blinders are anymore? Watching cartoons when I was little, I tell my kids, I know, people always say, well, back in those days, it was don't watch too much TV because there weren't any other screens. It wasn't like, don't have too much screen time. TV was the only screen. So, but I watched a lot of cartoons. I did. And I learned things, and they were probably old for even when I was younger, like Bugs Bunny or things like that. But they would put blinders on the horses so that they couldn't see the other things and get distractions. So that's what I'm doing right now is put my hands to the sides of my eyes. Don't look, don't look, don't look. Don't get distracted, right? So you're clearing your pathway, and clearing your pathway may just be a mental thing. It may take a few minutes. It may take a long time. Like if you have time, you think, I'm just going to clear out this room that's in between. For me, it's kind of like a mud room. I guess that's what they call it, between my kitchen and my laundry room. Sometimes that's my distraction. So sometimes I will spend a few minutes and clean that up. But often I end up sitting on the floor, reorganizing a whole thing because you go down that hyper focus mode, going down the rabbit hole, and feeling that soothing feeling of being able to organize and bring clarity and beauty to an area of your life. I think it's, at least for me, it's kind of meditating and relaxing just to get into that mode. But it can take a long time and it can get me off, from what I was doing. So either dedicating some time to doing that or telling yourself to forget it or kind of scooting it over, covering it up so you don't see it. So that's clearing your pathway. Paving your pathway is more related to how to make something that is hard for you to get yourself to do and hard to remember to do and hard to even wrap your brain around. So these are things that you actually need to pave a pathway in your brain so it becomes second nature, so it becomes part of your day, so it becomes part of your system, your method, your pattern, your flow of the day. And those are things like I said, I know when I walk out the door to go to my yoga class in 15 minutes, I'm going to grab my bag that has the keys to the gym. If I don't grab that bag, if I switch to another bag for some reason, I've done it before, but now I'm getting better at it. I won't think to put the keys in that bag. And you can't copy this key. This is a key fob, and it's a key to the room where I teach yoga. A key fob to get into the gym, a key to the room. If I switch bags, it's probably a 99% chance that I won't think to switch the key. And even if I do remember to switch the key, when I go back to the first bag for whatever reason, I'll forget to put the key back. So my system, my pathway that I paved is a system, and it's also a mode in my brain that has done this before. It knows what to do. I'm walking out the door. I grab my bag. I grab my sunglasses. I grab my car key, and I already have a water bottle filled up, ready to go with me. Sometimes I walk out to the car and I've left one of those things on the counter. That happens, especially if you put things on different counters as you're going through those little circular motions in your kitchen. But when I get to the car, I'll usually remember, run back in, get it, I'm good. But I've found that while it's not important, well, it's not the moment of leaving. Well, it's maybe right after I woke up and I'm filling up a cup with water so I can take the supplements I want to take in the morning. At that same time, I've learned I can pave a pathway. I can make this whole scenario of leaving my house easier and more paved, more predictable that it'll be nice to go on by just filling up this water bottle right now. And I've done it so many times that I don't even think about it. Just grab the water bottle, grab the lid, da, 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 scoop the ice. You have your system of how you do it. The first time or two, like when we got our new fridge, it was different. What am I doing? Before, the filtered water was on the outside of the fridge. Now it's inside of the fridge. And there are still a few times, like when I came back from my trip, my brain wasn't tuned into that non-thinking mode of doing that because I hadn't done it for 2 weeks. So I had to think for a minute, where am I getting my water? Where are my water bottles? So all those things, even though they'd been set in my brain before, they took a few tries to get back in there again. And we're learning that learning curves, those pathways in the brain. I know I'm using pathway a lot in a lot of ways, but the wiring that happens in the brain that makes it easier for us, that makes it so our brain doesn't have to work as hard, happens because of repetition, happens because we do something often. And at least for me, as I get older, doing it more often gets it in my brain, but it's not as guaranteed to be there if I go a long time without doing it. And I guess that was true when I was younger too. I don't know if you played the piano when you were younger. Maybe you still do. You're probably a lot better than I am if you do. But I took piano lessons up till high school till I thought, I don't need piano lessons anymore. I should have kept going because I was at that point where I could play songs pretty well, but I couldn't just look at a song and play it. And I've only been able to do that, and I'm not talking very advanced songs. I've only been able to do that at times when I've been asked to play the piano more often, and I just my brain and my fingers work together better. But there were a few songs that when I was in high school that I'd played so many times that I could just walk up to the piano and play them without looking at the music. And maybe for some people that's their mode anyway. They play without music, and not me. I usually need the music to do it, but my fingers got so used to playing The Entertainer, do 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 do, from is that from the Sting movie? Wait, what's it called? I can't remember. With Paul Newman and Robert Redford. I think it is The Sting. I'm just getting confused because I love Sting, as in the Police and Gordon Sumner. I love Sting, so I'm getting a little confused on The Sting and Sting. But anyway, I would play The Entertainer, and I could play it fast, I could play it slow, and there were even other songs that I would play so often with the music that I could just play them on my hands without the piano because my fingers knew what to do. They knew what to do. It was just a habit. It was just wired to my fingers. Even till when my oldest daughter, who's now 34, when she was in high school and still took piano lessons, she went longer and she's better at the piano because of it. But when she played the piano in high school, she played a song. I think it was called Rondino or something. I don't know. I guess my brain, I can see it on the page. It was like a RHO. I can't remember. Anyway, she played that song. I I don't know if I gave my book to her to take to the piano teacher and they chose some songs, but she played that song. And I remember at her recital and her piano teacher told me she noticed it because, if you have the hyperactive component of ADHD, it helps to move your hands and feet. Even if you don't realize you're doing it, it's helping your body sometimes just to move your hands and your feet when you're sitting still. And when she was playing her song, I was playing it in the air. Do 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 do, do, and I'm actually doing it right now, but it's been so long now. So that was when she was in high school. Now she's 34. So yeah, those days, if I went down to our piano right now, because I don't play hardly ever, I play hardly ever. My son plays a lot. If I go in there, my fingers aren't as strong, so they don't play the notes as evenly. It's like my finger muscles aren't as controlled. But even the brain, I don't know. I should do a little study, huh? I wonder how long it would take if I just went down there and practiced every day to get that back in my brain and get it controlled and get it to where I actually knew what I was doing. Because right now, when I just did that in the air, it was more like I was moving my fingers, but they probably weren't in the exact spot, piano wise. But yeah, that's when I first realized there are a lot of things that our brains remember. We remember words to songs when a song comes on. Every single word. I used to listen to the Carpenters and Olivia Newton-John when I was little, because that's who my aunt Susie loved. And those songs come on. I know every single word. And I actually sing kind of in their kind of voice because that's what I did when I was younger. But can I play the entertainer just walking up to the piano? No, no. Some of that left. I think I could get it back because enough of it's there. But that happens in my day to day too. Even coming up here after my 2 week trip to set things up for my podcast last week. It took me a few minutes, and I think my grandchildren played with the buttons on the acoustic, whatever that thing is called, that controls the sound coming in. I never remember what it's called, but it took me a little bit to sit here and think, what am I doing? Wait, how do I do how do I do this? And it's so much easier when I do things more frequently and I just go to them and can do them. And I'm sure it's the same way for you. So paving the pathway. The reason I came up with that term is when somebody builds a path or a road, they they can literally pave it, right? They can put black pavement there, and that makes it easier to go on later. But you can also do that just with your own patterns, with your own behavior. Maybe not with the blacktop, but with just walking. So if you have a trail that's not actually a trail, but it's a place that you want to walk on and you walk on it frequently enough, it becomes a trail because of your footsteps. And we have a driveway that's actually a cement driveway that comes from the road into our house. It's kind of a long driveway, not super long, but it's a nice straight driveway that goes to our parking area. Well, we have a few adult kids living with us. We have three adult children who live within 15 minutes or an hour from us. So kids come to visit us, and that was one thing that we looked at when we bought this house is does it have enough room for a lot of cars if people are coming over? Because you want to be able to get in and out. And some of the neighborhoods, we hadn't really lived in neighborhoods with an HOA before. We were always kind of rural in our last house, even though we had neighbors, we were all tucked into the redwoods. We didn't see each other much. And we had a huge driveway that was important to us, a lot of space. And so I would look at these HOAs where you can't park on the street and you are really limited to how much parking is actually in your driveway. So this house, it was like, oh, there's a lot of room to park, but there's not a lot of room to get out if actually on the cement if you need to back out and there's a lot of cars. But we have a lot of yard space. We have 5 acres and it's just kind of woodsy, treesy and stuff. And it's not on a hill like where we used to live. Florida's pretty flat. So my husband said, we can pull off the driveway and drive to the left in this loop and make it in between the trees back to the top of the driveway. And I said, we can. And there was a stump there, and you kind of learn to go around the stump. And then there's this just enough space for your car between the fence and this little PVC pipe that comes up, just barely, that you can get your car through. And each one of ours, whether it's my son's minivan or my SUV, which is now broken, and I don't drive it anymore, may it rest in peace. Maybe someday my husband will be able to fix it, but right now it's there waiting. But anyway, I'm driving a smaller car now. But we started pulling off to the left for some of our cars into off of the cement into just kind of a dirt, which is actually sand here in Florida. But we pulled off into that. We can park 3 cars there, or we can pull those forward, park 6 cars there. Instead of backing up into other cars, we can just go forward and drive in that loop in the woods and be back on the driveway. And so we did that for probably a year. I mean, now we've been here 2 years. We've done it for 2 years. But a friend came to visit from North Carolina, and she said, "Oh, this is nice that you have a driveway over here. And, that there's a driveway for you to go through in the forest, in the woods as well." And I said, "Oh, that wasn't actually a driveway. We made that driveway just by going on it. When I first drove on it, it looked like I was driving in the middle of the woods. There was no pathway there. But because we've taken our cars on that pathway over and over and over and over, now it's pounded in more in the dirt, the sandy dirt. There are weeds or whatever down at the bottom that aren't growing there because we're driving on it every day. My daughter leaves for work in the morning. She drives on it. I leave and go on it. So over and over, we have paved this pathway with our patterns. And we can do that in our brains. It's so fascinating. We can pave these pathways and make it easier. So we're not just going through it the first time going, how do I go on this driveway? Where is it? What do I do? It wasn't paved. So I had to think about it each time. Now it's there. It's smooth. I can go on it. And it makes it easier. And it's the same way in our lives. We clear a pathway to make it easier to actually be on it. And then we pave a pathway to be able to function better. So those are my 2 little thoughts I've had. Part of that on my trip. Part of it as I've navigated out of that chaotic mind I had last week. And cleaning my closet has made a big difference, but I'm not done yet. Is the last part of cleaning your closet the hardest for you? It is for me. Whenever I'm clearing things out, it's those last bits of, it's easier to organize the bigger bits and get rid of things, and it's those final choices that are harder. That's where I am now. But my brain is more clear because I thought that would be nice if this closet was just a little more open, if I didn't have all these dresses that I haven't worn in years. And I made myself try on a lot of them to make the decisions, and so many of them didn't feel comfortable anymore, were too scratchy or whatever. And I thought, if you don't like it, get rid of it. It was clearly freeing. But I guess that's it for today. I really do need to go. I have to leave here in 10 minutes. But I did it. I can run down, get my water bottle, upload this. Hopefully I can upload it before I leave so you can get it today. I just thought if you get a little boost to your week, a little something to maybe help you see your pathway a little more clearly, that would be fantastic. And next Monday, I'm starting the first free 5-day focus challenge. If you've listened to previous episodes, it was going to start earlier, 2 weeks ago. I didn't get ready. I wasn't ready. I didn't realize how much more I had to get done or how I had to clear my mind to be able to make it happen. But go to my website to sign up for that. I'll send you an email later in the week to help you prepare for it. And next Monday, we could start together. Yay. Until then, thanks so much for being here. Bye.
Open windows, broken shadows. Frozen dreams are left for tomorrow. Without a cause, no time for a pause. Rewind, I've run out of time to sing melodies and harmonies. I'm cut short, the silence of sound has yet been found. but not by me.